So we are given a problem here that given 1% level of significance, sample size n is equal to 8, calculated value of R, which is the product moment correlation coefficient, is negative 0.716. And we earlier on said if the product moment correlation coefficient is a negative, then there is a negative correlation or association between the two variables. Now, the claim is saying there is a negative correlation between x and y. So we are told to carry out a hypothesis to test the claim. So what we do, we said let us follow the following steps. One is that you are supposed to state the null hypothesis H0 and the alternative hypothesis H1. Choose the level of significance, like in here, it is already provided for. So the level of significance here given is 1%. Find the critical values, then find the test statistic, draw your conclusion. So the test statistic here, since we are involving the product moment correlation coefficient, then that's what we shall calculate. We shall get R and then compare it with the critical value and then draw our conclusion. So first of all, let's begin with the null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. So what is the null hypothesis? So the null hypothesis is H0, and we said that low is equal to 0. In other words, no correlation. No correlation. Then number still under here, we need to write the alternative hypothesis, which is H1. And H1 we said, since we are dealing with a one-sided test, that is one table test, we are looking at a negative correlation or a negative association. So rho will be less than 0. You have to understand that. Okay, so what next is that we are supposed to choose the significance level. That significance level is 1%. Level of significance. Okay. It is already provided. From there, let's look for the critical values. So we are going to use our table of product moment correlation coefficient. We already know, n is equal to 8. The significance level is 1%. So we just go to our table here. And it is a one-tail test. So we shall go to 1%. So we come here and go to 8. So when we reach there, we pick that value. So that means our critical value for PMCC is 0.7887. But since we are talking about the negative correlation coefficient, we shall take negative 0.7887. Because this table does not give you negative values, it's up to you to understand that we are talking about the negative correlation, therefore that value has to be negative. It's positive correlation, and therefore that value has to be positive. So then you can draw a number line. Instead of drawing a normal distribution curve, you can also draw a number line, and 0 is in the center. So what is the what is the value that was calculated. The calculated value is that. What is the critical value? It is this, negative 0.7. Let us assume our value is here, negative 0.7887. So what is where is the negative 0.716? So the negative 0.716 negative is behind, okay, is behind this. So this is the critical, I mean the rejection region, because our critical value is at this point. So since our value is outside the rejection region, so we can see that the calculated value is outside the rejection region. So what does that mean? If it is outside the rejection region, we fail to reject. Okay, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. And what is the decision or the conclusion? I mean, that is the decision. But what about the conclusion? This is the decision, and this is the conclusion. There is not sufficient. There is not sufficient evidence. Not sufficient evidence to suggest that. Okay? Suggest that there is a negative correlation between X and Y. Okay, that's how we can deal with such a problem. We are given N, we are given the level of significance. We use those two to calculate the critical value. We compare the critical value with the calculated value, and then we draw a conclusion. I mean, we make a decision on rejecting or accepting the null hypothesis, and then we make a conclusion whether there is sufficient evidence or not suggests that the claim is okay. Because the claim here is that there is a negative correlation between X and Y. So if there is not sufficient evidence, then we reject that claim. I mean, we fail to reject the null hypothesis and adopt the alternative hypothesis.